Have you ever wondered how to use the Morrowind construction set? Well, today we're going to be going over all of the basics and what's entailed in the original construction set. If you want to mod an existing mod that somebody else made, this is the tool to do it on. If you come to find out that there's something in the game that you'd like, maybe your own house, then you could put that in the game. Or you need a bedroll placed somewhere in particular. Well, create your own ESP file. That's what we're going to be covering today. So first, let's talk about what is it going to take to even get the construction set to begin with. As you can see in my file explorer here, I have what's called the TES construction set.exe. However, if you are getting this game through Steam, or maybe some of the other platforms, it turns out that it might not be shipped with it. It came with the original disc, but it doesn't come with the games that are sold on these platforms nowadays. So it's very easy to obtain this. If you need it, I'll include all of these links in the descriptions. So first, on Nexus Mods, you can get the TES construction set fixed. Basically, this gives you all of the missing files, like the exe, for example. It does say there are a couple instructions here. Apparently, you need to redate your BSA files. And I have had this game for a long time. I believe I've already done this, so we'll find out if it doesn't work. But to do it, you just run the Morrowind code patch. The Morrowind code patch, there's a link to it on here, but this is an exe file that you download, and I believe you put it in your Morrowind folder right next to the launcher for Morrowind. But you can read the instructions that are included in the README that are in the download. And it's a really simple code patch. You just run it one time, you select some options, and then apparently it will redate the BSA files as well, which is needed. So I'm not going to do that because I believe I already have a long time ago. Next, the other thing you're going to want to know about is that there's this BSA Unpacker, which is a tool that takes all of the files that are packed together for Morrowind and unpacks them into a set of folders for you so you can get to any asset that you want, including any of the meshes or textures. If for some reason you need them separated out of the original game, for example, if you want to create a static that is also the shape of an iron longsword, you can do that, but you need the BSA Unpacker to be able to take the original meshes and then put those into a folder where you can then use them in your mod. And they would actually, all of these assets that you would use for your mod, they go into the Morrowind data folder. And the folder structure for that would be similar to what the BSA uses for its folder structure. Now, let's talk about this also. If you are going to get the Morrowind code patch, you might also, it says it requires this Microsoft Visual C++ 2010 redistributable package x86. It says most people already have it, but if you get an error, you need to install this. So that means you can go to the link, you can download it here, you run it, it's another executable, and then you're good to go. So just to summarize, you get the test construction set, then if you've never done it before, run the Morrowind code patch, which requires this file, but you might already have this file, so I recommend just trying the code patch first. And then if you have an error, go to this, download that, install that, run the code patch again. And then if you need any files from Morrowind, the original files from the game, you can use this tool here. Okay, that will all be included in the description. Now let's get to the actual modding. Or we will almost get to the actual modding, because it turns out you're going to need to do one more step. So when you have the construction set, the first thing when you open it up and you open up all the data files, it's going to have like maybe 50 errors. And those errors are original to the games that Bethesda released. Errors like, oh, this dialogue is missing, and etc. So to skip past all 50 without clicking yes 50 times, you need to add a single line of code to the Morrowind INI file. So if you open that up, you need this here. Allow yes to all equals 1. You need to put that under the general section. That's how you are going to skip all of those errors. And you don't need to worry about those errors. It'd be nice if they weren't there, but they are. So you deal with it. So we're going to go ahead now. Since I have that line of code there, you're going to want to add it. Then you'll open up the tesconstructionset.exe. So we'll open that up. Okay, so right away, some windows pop up. No errors yet, though. And actually, there's nothing loaded. So the first thing you do is go to File, Data Files. And then you see, oh, okay, I have Morrowind ESM, Blood Moon ESM, Tribunal ESM. Oh, and what do you know? There's also a test esp.esp. So I ran a test earlier just to see something, and then this gets saved into your data folders. So any mods that you want to modify, say you download something from the Nexus and you want to change it, and you want that to be your active file that you're changing actively, you'll go to your data files under your Morrowind game, and you'll drop the ESP in here. I think also if you have a OpenMW, it's called a OMW add-on file, I believe you can just rename it to .esp and it will be the same, I believe. But anyway, so you drop the ESP file into data files here, and then the game will detect, oh, what do you know, there's a file here that you can edit. So if you need to edit that, that's how you do that. Next thing. Now you're actually going to launch up, let's say you're creating a mod from scratch. You click this, Morrowind, Tribunal, and Blood Moon. So you click all three of those, and right away you have no active file. Now if I wanted to edit a file, I would click Set as Active File. You see how it put the X here for me. It says status is active file. That means when I go to save, it's going to overwrite the active file. But we don't actually need to do that right now. So that's a plugin file now. It's not the active file. We have no active files. So we're going to load up. Hit OK. So then we wait. It's going to begin pulling up all the data. It's going to load everything from the BSA files. So first thing is that it has this first error here. This is where those 50 different errors come into play, but because I put yes to all, it says to continue, cancel is yes to all. So we're going to hit cancel. That's just acknowledging every single error and without actually clicking it 50 times. So that's what that is about. Now you can see everything's loading in here. We got our cells down here that have loaded in. We got our object window over here. And then we also have a render window. There's nothing in the render window yet because we haven't selected anything from the different cells that are possible. So these are all of the cells in the game. You can see we got a lot of exterior cells, the ones that say grid and have a number, that is your exterior cells. Then you also have interior cells. So anything that's inside, like caves or inside houses or, you know, forts or anything like that. So you have everything here. And in the exterior cells, you also have named exterior cells. This is the different towns as well. So you have all that. You have a bunch of interiors here. You can see a bunch of Ballamora and Bitter Coast and whatnot. Now, if I double click one of these, it's going to open it up. So let's just start with something simple, Sedanine. You have two different cells in Sedanine. That means two different exterior cells. They are a given size. And even before I open this up, if you look on the right here, this is the list of objects that are in there. So this is everything that's in that cell. So you can see the containers and what or the misc items or the statics, level creatures. But let's go ahead and open up the cell. So we're opening up Sedanine, -2, -10. And here we are. So you can kind of see what's going on here. Maybe I can make this a little bit bigger for better visibility. You can zoom in using the scroll wheel. So hopefully you have a mouse. If you click the middle mouse button, that's how you grab the you click and hold the middle mouse button, move your mouse, and now you're grabbing what you're looking at and moving. So I'm moving closer to the city, then I zoom in. Then if you want to move the screen, move the angle of the screen, I recommend clicking on something and try not to move it. And then I believe you hold shift. So you click on something and you hold shift. The reason you click on something is because then you'll rotate the screen around that object. If you don't click on something and you hold shift, you kind of just start looking around. And you're not really going to get a good look. So that's what I'm doing now. But if I click on an object like this Ariel's Trade House, then I can actually turn all the way down here and I can zoom in. Oh, zoom in quite a bit, right? So then I can see, oh, like there's a guard there. That's his spawn points, essentially. Okay, so that's how you look at things in a cell. So let's go ahead and minimize this a little bit. Back to the original size here. Kind of make some room now. Okay. So now you know how to navigate cells. You know about the cell list and the items in there. Let's talk about the different objects. And it's also not just objects. There's also spells in here too. Under spell making, if you want to create a spell, you would do that here. I think the same applies for enchantments as well. Yes. So you can see you have a list of different enchantments that can then be applied to an item, like maybe like a shirt or a sword. So you can, if with any of these windows, you can right click and hit new. You can click edit. If you click info, I guess it tells you, like this says, how many is it used on. But you can also expand these out a little bit. You can see the charge there, the cost. Like the cost is like how much does it use of the given charge. So if you had 25 cost and 100 charge, then you could use it 4 times. Blocked is, I think, related to if it can be referenced. And references are like, I believe it's like in a script you can reference something. Or there might be other reasons for this blocked here. It's good to be aware of it. because you can block references to certain items, right? Okay, so that's enchanting and spell making is essentially the same. You have normal cost here. You have if it's a spell or power or ability. I guess there's diseases as well. Uh, and I mean, like the diseases are like you catch the disease, and then this is the uh, status that is affecting your character, and you can actually see this, like this ash, ash chancer. Is what it looks like. You can see that in the it's like the spell effects on your in your spell menu. And really, with any of these, you can see it. Somebody casts absorb fatigue on you, you can see that on there. But so that is spell making. Then you also have leveled creatures and leveled items. So these are basically randoms that can appear based on not only a certain chance, but also your level. So, for example, like this one here is a mud crab. So that's not what you would call a leveled creature. That's just a creature. But if you look over here, there's this thing that looks like a monkey, ninja monkey. This, see that ninja monkey? Yep. If you double click on him, it says leveled creature. And I clicked on him twice. You want to only click on things once. So it says it could be a mud crab if you're level 1, disease cliff racer if you're level 4, uh, netch bully if you're level 4, or a netch betty if you're level 10. Chance of none is 50%. And yeah, so that is how the leveled creatures work. And then, so if you noticed, I also moved this character. So I moved him. So if I click on him again, he's called EX Shore All Lev 1. Yeah, so you can see this little asterisk here. That means I've modified him. All I did was move him just a little bit, right? But now I've modified him. And I've actually modified the whole cell here. I'm not exactly sure how everything gets loaded up if you have different conflicting cells. But if you do have different conflicting cells, then weird stuff starts to happen. So you have to be careful with this. And there's no way to revert this change. You have permanently changed this cell. And if you didn't mean to do it, and you try to change it back, you try to like move him back a little bit, try to get him in the exact same spot, it's too late. He will always be overwritten if your mod loads after another mod that also changed the same thing. So that's sort of the issue with the original construction set, but that shouldn't stop you from being able to make simple changes. As long as you are aware of what you're doing, you should be able to essentially, make sure that you don't do any of these changes that you don't intend to, and then you change it back. And if you do, you can always clean your mod. So that will be something we go over in another section. But be aware that anytime you see this asterisk, that means you've changed it. Okay, so then if we look at leveled items really quick, just to kind of get an idea, these are things you put into containers, and then there's a random chance for certain things. So let's see, maybe we can find one with a bunch of different stuff. So this one is weapon melee blunt, right? So it says PC level. You know, at level 18 you could get a demon mace, or at level 1 you could get a wooden staff. And chance of none is 0, so that's good. But if it's of the same level, then it's gonna, I believe, pick one of them, or it's gonna be a chance of 0. So that's how the level stuff works. Now everything else is pretty straightforward. Creatures, like if I find this Allet here, oh yeah, that's another thing to be aware of. What I just did is I tried to click and drag, and sometimes it will highlight everything. So if you do that and you're like, oh man, where was I? You can always just press down, up, and on your keyboard, the down key, the up key, and you can kind of go back to where you were. It's because this window's not full sized that it does that, I believe. So it tries to think like, oh, you're trying to select more than one thing. No, you're not. Or maybe you are. So now you see that I've dragged this thing. I got this little, no, you can't drop that here symbol. But if I click and drag it over this window, now you can see that the mouse has a little plus button by it. So now if I let go of my, my mouse button, boom, I've dropped him into the cell, and he's definitely floating in midair. So you can click, you drag him around, you can twist him. Oh yeah, the way to twist him is you right click on the thing, and then if you want to just drag him around, you just left click on him. And then say you want to put him on the ground, you're like, well, how do I get him to go down? Then you just press the Z key, and he will move in the Z direction, up or down. So I go all the way down, let go, click on him again, all the way down. Then I let go of my Z key to push him forward, then Z key again to go down, and there he is. Now he's clipping through the grass. You just got to get him close enough. As soon as the game loads up, it's going to drop him straight on the ground. No fall damage. So then he'll be walking around basically. Now notice our cell has an asterisk by it. Now we already modified the cell when we turned this guy, but now we've modified the cell for sure because now you can see I've dropped him in there. Okay. If you were like, okay, well, I like this Allet, but I want him to be new. I don't want him to be the existing Allet. Right now, the ID is Allet. So if I change this to level 4, it's going to change every single instance of an Allet to level 4. And you can see that there's a count here of 29. We'll be changing 29 of them to from level 3 to level 4 if I change it here. However, if you change the ID and you say, okay, well, I'm going to call it Allet_1, or if you're doing a mod properly, you'll have some sort of prefix like for my mod, right? _Allet. Then you'll do that. You'll hit save. It'll say you have changed the object ID. Create new object. And then you'll say, yes, I want to create a new one. Otherwise, you'll change Allet, but why would you do that? You don't need to. So you create a new one. And then it's still in alphabetical order, but you can type in MM. Or I guess if you hit M, it brings you down to the first M, and there you see MM_Allet. Count of 1. There's an asterisk by it. That means I modified it. And then you can change attributes and, what does he drop? If you wanted to put an iron longsword in there, you could. If you wanted to do that, actually, you would go to the thing you want to put in there. So let's say I wanted an iron longsword in there. I'd have to go to weapon. Then I'd have to find the iron longsword. Maybe I can hit I to get down to iron. And there's the iron longsword. I could click and drag and drop it in there. Now, when you load up the game, you find this Allet, you kill him. There's an iron longsword in his drops. Yep, really works that easy. There's blood textures if you wanted to change it from red, like maybe you want it to be metal sparks. I don't know why you do that, but you can. I guess you can change his movement from walks to swims or flies, uh, which I've never done. I would be interested to see what that's like. There's for different things, there's this thing called AI, or for different like creatures and NPCs, you have AI. So you can tell him that you want him to wander around, which is actually already on here. The distance he'll wander, the duration, chance of idling, and the different idle types of idle. Um, then you can be like, oh well, this thing can be escorted. I don't know how that would work on a creature. It'd probably be something similar to the creeper, right? Because there's also barter if you I don't see it, but I think there's a way to make it so they can barter. So if I go AI services right there. So instead of packages for like wandering or traveling or I'm not exactly sure what all of these are, but they can be looked up. You can give them like weapons to sell, and like he sells an iron longsword. Oh, I collect weapons. Now, when you activate and talk to him, or maybe you have to, maybe that's what this activate here is. You can always reference like Creeper and go find him and be like, well, how did they set him up? And then you could copy that if you wanted another creature to do the same thing as Creeper, right? Um, but in the services tab there, you kind of saw some of that. But let's just put an NPC down. It's going to make it just makes a little bit more sense, right? So we could create a new, brand new. Just hit right click, hit new. Give an give them an ID like MM, right? And then for this ID, we could say like, okay, the name's going to be how about uh, Gothrin, right? Name, spell it with a capital letter. Um, there's an option for scripts, which we'll go over later. Give him a class, so he could be a shipmaster or a smith or maybe a sorcerer. You could give him a faction and what rank in that faction. And then, of course, you're not going to have anything on him. Oh yeah, you choose his race, so maybe a Breton. And then, yeah, give him some clothes, right? So there's a section for clothing. And not just like amulets, but give him like a common shirt and maybe common shoes and common pants all the way at the top here. All right, let's see how we did. So I'm gonna hit OK. Now I created the record, but he's not in here. I have to actually click and drag him in there. So you go back to NPC, MM. So I just type in M, scroll down to MM. It's just going to be a little bit further down. There it is. 0 count. He's not been added yet. Put him in here. And how do we dress him? Wow. Looks straight out of Solstheim. Okay. So anyway, he can be on the ground. And then now we have our NPC, our own very NPC. Our very own NPC. But let's just say, okay, well, we want to give him some dialogue. Like, what's he going to say? Anything? And when you do open up the menu for the character, there is a dialogue option here. You can click it. That'll bring up the entire dialogue for, this is basically how you edit dialogue for every menu or every character. But we are filtered for our guy, MM_Gothrin. So we're only seeing the stuff that he can say right now. Now, if I wanted to create a new thing, I mean, we already have topics here that exist. So let's say we wanted him to have a special um, ability or special conversation about Solstheim. If I hit new, it says you cannot add topics while dialogue is filtered. So that's the issue with getting to this dialogue menu that way. You would literally have to click here, scroll all the way to the top, deselect everybody, and then you have to look at every single topic. It's actually kind of a very cruddy interface, but once you understand how it works, it's not the end of the world. So now in Solstheim I can hit new, right? And I can say, oh, well, he's going to say something like, that place is terrible. Don't talk to me about that. So that's the text. Now if I click off and I click it again, you can see it down here now. You could also have put it in there originally as well. And now there's a another feature about that. If you right now it's not the bottom, right? So literally anybody will say this. So every character in the game can now say this. It's not filtered for anybody. The original filter that we were looking at was under ID. Or really, actually, the original filter was for our character. But if we wanted to make it so only he could say it, we would have to click on our character in the ID there. But let's just say maybe we don't want just our character to be able to say it. Maybe we want anybody who's a Breton to say it, who's also, let's see, what class did we give him? I don't remember, but we can just take a look, right? So he's a sorcerer, right? So every Breton sorcerer could say it. And then that means our character would say it, and every other Breton sorcerer would say that. So, and then you have one for male or female, or like also disposition. And if your character does not meet the standard for that, then they just won't talk about it at all. It won't even be on the ability to select that topic. So there's other things in here as well. There's voice. If you click that, fair warning, it's going to make some noise. Same thing, I think, with greeting. So let's just see what happens here. It might be a jump scare. We'll see. No. Okay. Maybe if I click here. No. Okay. Okay, well, let's just see what happens when we click voice, right? Just get ready. So yeah, that was really loud, but now you know, right? And it's the same thing for any of these. It just plays them right away. Oh yeah, apparently that's what Yagram Bagarn says. Like, I don't remember him making that noise, but then there's also the persuasion here. If you like fail to admire, you know, what does it say? Disposition, yada yada. Journal. This is also very important for any quests that you create. Okay. And that's then the other important thing to note. So let's just say we go back to our. Uh, oh yeah, sorry. It looks like the topic I made this under was not Solstheim. It was under the 1,000 Drake Pledge. And then what you could do is you could delete it here, but unfortunately, you've still like basically edited this entry, so that gets stuck in other people's mods too. So that's why you have to be very careful when you're modding. But you can also maybe delete it and then use the test3 command to remove it. But this is just the original. We're just going over the original construction set here. Maybe you don't actually end up using this. Maybe you actually end up using like the OpenMW construction set, or there's another one. I think the Enchanted Editor, or it's a construction set, but it's the one with quality of life improvements in it. So this also, the way this works is it will always scan from top to bottom. So it will always say this one first if you meet the requirements for it. So it's important that when you create these, you put them in the right order as well. And you can't move them up or down. In the OpenMW construction set, you can, which is very nice to be able to move stuff up and down. Because then you don't have to delete it and then create a new one. Like, so if you create a new one, let's see, does it put it at the top or the bottom? It doesn't tell you. It puts it at the top. So it puts it, and then now it's empty, right? So that actually might be an entry. But if you delete it, now it says it's deleted, it won't read that one anymore. But if I hit new over this, and then it moves it down, so you can see it was edited as well. It moved it down, and then there's something else here that will be scanned first. So we can put the number 12 there. And what will happen now, since I have nothing here, no filters whatsoever, they'll say this one first if they meet the requirements, say this one next if they meet the requirements. Then they'll be like 12. And they'll never ever say anything underneath this because there's no filter here. This will always be the last one because there's no filter. So generally with a topic, you want the last filter to be with the least number of filters. You still want at least one filter because you still want not everybody in the game to say it or be able to talk about it, whatever topic it is that you're creating a mod for. But then you have to make sure that, so you just filter it like by either ID or maybe quest or something like that. Because you can go into function variable here, journal, this is quests here, so quests have IDs as well. So many of these familiar to people. Meet Vivek, maybe. Like that could be set to 10. 10 is a journal entry in that journal ID. And journal, if you remember, is over here. So you can actually go look and see like what are the entries here and what's the number. It's actually this index here, not the ID. So 50 is this one. With Dagathir destroyed, his insane dreams can no longer drive the people of Morrowind to madness as they sleep. So that's the last one. You can see the finished checkbox is checked here. So, and these numbers don't really have any rhyme or reason or really matter that much. They're just usually start with the smaller one and make your way up to the bigger one. Okay. And then, so if you go back to topic, and yeah, so you might filter your conversation by journal entry, or journal quest, and then which journal is it? 10 maybe, right? Or 1 or 10 or 50. So that's how you use the dialogue system. There's also an important thing in the dialogue system called result. This is where you can put functions that make the game do stuff. So they want to give you gold. You would put player add item. Oops, don't put that space there. Add item gold underscore 001 and then the amount 100 gold. You could put it just like that. Um, so this is just an example. This is something that you can also type into the console if you wanted to give yourself 100 gold. But for you'll want to be aware that you can do this because you can do a lot of different things. This is also the same syntax that is used when you create a script. So we'll go over scripting here in a little bit as well. And basically, for scripting, to know about that, you'll want to go to the alphabetical function list, Morrowind, and then UESP. So if you type that in, it looks like it's this first one here. And this is everything you can do. So you can activate, add item. As you can see, that's what I did. If you click add item here, you can see the example it gives you. Um, this one has the parentheses there. Parentheses are good, especially for things that don't have, like things that have a space in it. So if I zoom in here, you can see like this character's name has a space in there. It cannot process things that have a space in there. You have to use these quotes, otherwise it just thinks it's two separate things. This tells the game, oh, it's only one thing. But if you were to put Fargoth here without quotes, it would work because Fargoth doesn't have um, any other spaces or anything like that in his ID. So you don't necessarily need the quotes, but you do if there's a space in the ID. So that's how that works. It's probably good to just use the quotes anyway. So what I would do, go here like this, like that, and then voila. It's exactly the same. Another one would be like goodbye. That's another function that makes you exit. That's when people say goodbye down there at the bottom. I believe that's on this list as well. So you can also skip down and hit the G on there. Goodbye. Where's it at? There it is. And then it tells you like this function immediately ends the player's conversation with the NPC, forcing the user to click the goodbye option at the end of the dialogue. So you'll see this everywhere in the dialogue too. So you're gonna want to become familiar with everything that you can do here. There's also like if statements and else if statements. So and enable. I think that's if you want to enable or disable an object like a person, for example. You could do that in the conversation, or you can have like an item put in the game that you use a script to disable it and then enable it later, or you can enable it in the dialogue. So, and if you do that, you're going to want it to be a unique ID. You're going to have to create new, have a single one of those, and then basically make the script start somehow, which we'll get into here in a little bit. Okay, so now let's get into scripting. Um, so with scripting, we've kind of covered a little bit of the basics here. You're going to need to know about these functions. So we're looking at the enable, disable, but you're going to be using a lot of if, else, else if, and then I think end if, right? Yeah. So we'll go ahead and just open up a script just to give you an example of how does it work, right? So let's see. Close the dialog box here. Close the NPC box. And then let's say we want to do scripts. So you go down to gameplay and then edit scripts. And you hit open. This is if you have an existing script or you want to edit a script. And there's a really good script, actually, before we even find the script I want to get to. I already know the script I want to look at. It's the one with Fargoth sneaking around. That's basically the perfect script to get familiar with. And I don't remember what it's called, but I know where Fargoth is. He's standing right here. So if I double click Fargoth, he has a script. Oh, okay. So he has a script called local states. So, okay. Well, I guess we'll just have to find another script to look at. That's all right. So let's just we could take any script really. It doesn't have to be the Fargoth script. If you can find that script, that would be great. But let's just say we're looking at a bed script, bed standard. So every script has begin and then name of script, bed standard, and it also ends with end. If you don't have those two things, it definitely won't compile. If you want a comment, you can see that they used a semicolon here for this comment. You can use that for yours as well. And then basically this says if menu mode equal 0, this is just an equals basically, then you can assume that this is then. If this then, it's going to check, it's going to do a second check in here because you don't have and. So this is your and. Double if statements like this is an and. Then if the on activate is equal to 1, show rest menu. End if, end if. So you're closing the if on this one, and you're closing the if on this one here. And what these are basically menu mode is like, oh, are you in the menus? On activate, that's like, oh, you clicked it. And so you can go back to the functions here and you can actually find them. So on activate, you can read what does that mean. Returns 1 if the calling object is activated or 0 otherwise. So it's activated when you approach it in the game and you press spacebar or A button or whatever. And then menu mode, so you go back, menu mode, there it is. So then this one says returns 1 if the player is currently in menu mode. It is a good idea to separate your script into logic into processing commands in and out of menu mode. Certain actions like using items are done when in menu mode. So yeah, that's the reason to be aware of that is because yes, your script can activate while you're in the menu. For example, if you're having a conversation with somebody, and then like in that results function, you say, oh yeah, they're gonna be moved to a different cell. You could move them to a different cell in a different position. If you're in the conversation with them, like that's menu mode. So if you put in the results menu that they're gonna move away, or like say you have a script that does it, you can say if menu mode is equal to 0, then it does that. Else return. So you're going to want to know about return. Basically, the menu mode, like they would just disappear while you're still in the middle of a conversation with them, which means that you could just like click these other conversation topics while they're gone. So that's why you use if menu mode. You're going to need to be able to make sure things happen after you've exited menu mode. But probably the most important function in scripting is this thing called return. And it says use this to stop processing a script before the end. This is particularly useful for long scripts where it may take some time to fully process. So basically, this return here is like saying, don't go to the end here, go back to the top and continue scanning from the top and keep going in a cycle. It's kind of like looping you from the top all the way, like return. When it says return, it means return to the top. So it cycles through, and so if something earlier in the script changes, I believe can make a change. It can change something. Otherwise, it will just kind of hold you in that spot. Because otherwise, it'll be like, oh well, the menu mode's not activated, um, so I'm not going to fire off this thing that makes the like in this case. It's on activate, so that's always going to happen. And you're also never going to be in menu mode. But if you had a script that would like move somebody and you said if on menu mode is 0, they're not in the menus, then make them move to this other place, place PC at whatever, or not PC, place NPC at whatever, then it will be like, nope, they're in menu mode, go to the end. So that's a little bit of scripting logic for you guys to be aware of when you're scripting. And then it'll be important to know what can you put scripts on. So you can put scripts on people, and those scripts have to be started. What you can do in a dialog results box, you can start any script in a dialog results box, which is a good way to do it. Basically, in the results box, you would go. I think it's called start script. Yep. So it's called start script, and then the name of the script. So you can put that in the dialog results box. If they hit a certain, set of filters and for that character, starts the script. So then it's running, and it runs until it's done, until it gets to the end. So if you use a return statement, it could just be sitting there for a long time in the game. And you want to use also return statements to prevent the commands you send from repeating themselves over and over and over and over again. So, but that's one way you can start a script, or you can start a script with another script that's already running, uh, and like say, or say like on certain containers, for example, like this. Thing you get Fargoth's ring from, this tree stump, right? It updates your journal, for example. That's a script running. And if you wanted to look at that, you could double click the item, or the object, a container in this case, and you see that, oh, here's the script, tree stump script. If you click the three dots here, the first thing it starts with is on activate, if 0 return. So that means when it turns 1, it will actually run the rest of the script here. And so this script is basically running anytime you're in the same cell as the item. Like, so if you're in like Balmora, this will never run. But if you're in Satanin in the same cell, this is running. This is waiting in the background for you to come over and activate it. And then if your journal index for MS lookout is, greater than or equal to 20, and it's less than 40, and if the Fargoth walk variable is says greater than or equal to 2, and if this variable called set once is equal to 0, which by the way, it's a variable that is created up here. So that's just basically a placeholder for like a local piece of data. That's a number. And so like a short is like, it's just like a small number. I don't know if it's like an integer size or what, or byte size. Doesn't really matter as long as you don't go overboard on how large you set the numbers. But this is by default it's 0. So it's going to be like, oh, it's 0, yay, and then it's going to set to -1. So then it will never be 0 again. So you'll never get this again, even though this script will continuously activate. Because it'll be like return here and then it will activate here. It'll still let you open it. So, and then you see you have an end tree stump script and you have a begin. So that's another way to activate a script, is to attach it to an object. It's always running, and then have some conditions that actually cause it to trigger. So you could do it in the dialogues menu. You could do it on the object itself, including on a person. if they have a script. For example, I think we saw one on Fargoth. So I'll click him again. But his local state script is very simple. It just creates a variable that in his dialog it says change. It basically sets state to like -1, and that will affect the filter on his dialog. So you can manage dialog with these local variables that you create here as well. But you do have to attach it to them. So if you wanted to create you know, a set of variables for maybe complex dialogue, and you have a couple different variables that you change different numbers, then you can filter a topic by, oh, but this one's 6, so this one comes first, and then this one's 5, so that would be next, and you know what they are because you name the variables relative to what they're supposed to have for dialogue, then yeah, you could do that. And that's what they do with Fargoth. So you could use a script that way too. But then the final way is to edit start scripts, and you can create a script here. And maybe like if you're testing your mod and you're like, man, I'm generating this new character, but I'm going so slow. Like, I wish I could just make my character go fast without having to put it in the console every single time. Well, you could add a script here. Well, first you have to create the script and then add it here, start scripts, which will, when you start up the game, will run that script immediately. And then in that script, let's just say you had a new script, hit new here. I think it was, what was it, begin, script 1, right? And then make sure you have end script 1. This could be like your testing script, right? You could basically go player, set speed, 200, player, set acrobatics, 100. I think you could just do TGM, toggle God mode, like that. And so like you could do that. And then if you save and there's an error, it tells you script command player not found on line 4. Oh yeah. Look at this. So I didn't put the minus sign here. I put the underscore. So if I fix that, it's like I can't find player underscore. What is that? Now I saved. I clicked save, and it didn't pop up with any errors. See that? So this is a valid script. And there are better, like I always use OpenMW to do like a check of my script for any mess ups that I might have in there. So at a later point, we might be able to go over that as well. But anyway, that is the basics for scripting. And you'd use scripting for like advancing quests and making things enabled that are hidden, or like maybe NPCs that are hidden, that are start disabled, and then you enable them in another script. Or let's see, like I've made like a fire in campfire turn on at certain times, and you can do like you can check the time of the game and turn them on. You can make a character walk somewhere and then transport them to a cell, so you can make it look like they're walking through a door. Like you can make them walk over here to this door on the outside, and then you basically transport them inside the cell, and then they'll pop in there, and it all happens in real time as long as your character is in the cell with them, I think. So then yeah, scripting is basically, it's a script. It tells people what NPCs what to do, objects what to do, what happens to the player, and you can put that stuff in the results, and you can read about what the scripts do. you know um, Yeah. So, oh, and okay. So then one last thing before I go. You see these arrows here? Those arrows are cell transportation arrows. This is something I forgot to talk about. So this cell transportation arrow here, you can see where it comes from. If you double click it, it says it comes from Vodinius Nucleus's, basically his house, Satanin. And then if you were to click on this door here, doors have a special thing called select marker. And this will take you inside his cell here. Now, if I select marker, you can see that it teleported me, or the render window, exactly where it's at already. But if you have a new door and you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna put this, make my own house, you're gonna select your interior cell and then click select door on the one on the outside. And then on the one on the inside, you're gonna do the same thing except backwards. You're gonna click on the door and you see you pick the exterior cell, select marker, and then it's going to put it, it will just randomly put it in the cell somewhere. So you have to move it around right next to the door. But other than that, it works. So then you'll teleport here when you click on the other door. Um, so that is another basic feature here that you'll want to be familiar with as well. So, um, and if you wanted to edit things like race, skills, class, birth signs, you can do that here. You can hit new, you can give it a name, you can give it the spells, like the spell menu we talked about, spell making we talked about earlier. Or if you wanted to add one, I guess, can I do that? If I make this bigger. Oh, yeah, you have to drag it. So you have to click here, drag it into the window, absorb speed, right? So why would you have absorb speed? You'd have something like restore health on self, or fortify strength, fortify alchemy skill, right? And you'd make a custom one here. You'd hit new, whatever you want to call it, whatever name you want to give it. Then you pick the spell it is. This is just like the spell making inside of Morrowind, right? Lightning shield, self, blah, 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 blah. Is it a spell? Is it an ability? These are important. You need to know about these. Is it a power? Like those are the three you use mainly. Um, so then there's that, but you could create a class. You wouldn't really create any skills, most likely, or a race unless you have the animations or meshes for that like new race. And that's a complicated thing. But you could create a new faction, and then there's your dialogue menu. Uh, if you want to create new cells, you click here, new interior cell, and then it'll be in your list here, and then you would start building inside of there. And of course, what you would do is you would put statics in there, and you can always copy from another cell if you wanted to. But just to kind of give you an idea of what is a cell, an interior cell thing, any of these that say IN as interior. Um, and in a way, you could just grab one and you could put it in the exterior, and it's going to let you do that. Like, look at that. But that's an interior piece. And then if you do have those, go to preferences and use the grid, and then set the grid snap to, I think you'll want to do some value that's like, I don't know if 64 is the perfect value, but you'll want to use the grid for sure. Play around with that a little bit. And then you have speeds of like how fast you want it to move around when you when you use your mouse for this. So you could create a new cell, put stuff in it, and then put a door in there, and then teleport the door in to some exterior cell, and then in the exterior cell, put a door out there that teleports you into your interior cell. So that's how that works. Okay. And then if you wanted to turn off like some certain visibilities of certain things, you can do that here as well. And then if you wanted to do landscape editing, that's this option here. And landscape editing, you can see I have a circle now in the mouse feature here. And so the landscape is we have different textures you can use, or there's different textures you can use, and you can also manipulate the height. So I believe if I right click, that lets me grab the height here. I can just go up and down, go up. And then if I want to change the size, I can do that here, change it to 1. Now my thing's smaller. And now I made it more of like a volcano looking thing, kind of, can't really see. But since you can't really see it, maybe you want to paint it now. So then you'd click a texture, and yep, so you right click to get your texture on there. And it did quite a bit, quite a big section there. It also tears really ugly because if you have more than 2 textures touching, which there are more than 2 textures here, there's one kind over here and one kind over here, it will just clip. It won't blend. Like you see over here, it's blending. So that is something to be aware of. And there's really no easy fix. You just have to make the textures perfect when you go to put a new one in, and somehow if you do have a seam, you have to hide it, right? So that's how you do this. Like if you want to flatten here, you could choose that. So if I put it back to 5, I can click, and then, oh, well, you know, it's flat again. So, and then there's also edit colors, which changes like uh, if you want to darken the texture, like you see, I just painted that black, and if I left click, it takes it away. So if I make this like a 1 instead, I could just do like, oh, I want this here to be darker. Oh, like that, yes. I mean, maybe you don't make it black. Maybe you make it like a brown color, right? Like something like that. And it just gives it a different hue. So you can have some variety on your texturing as well. Magic effects. Yeah, that's something you probably won't edit, but it's there if you wanted to add a new effect. Sounds, I suppose. Oh, that was loud and scary. There's a lot of that in this. So if you wanted to add a sound, this is where you do it. Oh my God, that's crazy. Just stay out of the menu there. I don't know what that's for. Oh yeah, and then another thing you're going to want to be aware of if you're scripting, there's these things called globals. So if you want one script to be able to talk to another script, you're going to need to have a global variable that both scripts look at. Um, that is something you just got to be aware of. You know, you can have a local variable inside where it says like it creates like short and then name a variable like local state, right? We saw that in the Fargoth script. But this is a global, so any script can look at it. And this is how other scripts, like 2 different scripts, might talk to each other. Or you could even use this as a filter in the dialogue as well. Instead of a local, it'd be called a global. And you have to be very careful in this menu because it's so easy to just like click something and then I don't even know. Like you just change this number from a 0 to a 1, and it screws up everything if you do that. Not everything, but whatever it's related to. And it's so easy to do. I just trust me. Be very careful in this menu. Okay. So that is all of the basics here. There's this regions options, but that's like, oh, if you want to create a new cell, exterior cell, but you probably, if you do that, you're getting into some more advanced territory. Um, yeah, and I guess if you, this preview window, I've never seen that before. Oh, for an animation. If you want to play an animation, test what it's like. I've never used that before. And then there's other things you can see here, fog, for example. So that is that. I'm going to go ahead and call it for this video. This is just a basic introduction into the Morrowind construction set. So thank you for joining me, and perhaps we'll do more videos like this in the future.